welcome to UK Versus. And the OP season of 2025 has started, and as has been said by a lot of UVS and star owners and players alone, 2025 is the year of retro. And starting off strong, Rochester CCG has seemed to have created a retro committee, and they have implemented a new ban list for the Denver regionals happening in March. So, who is getting banned and why? And how will this impact other regionals and other communities? Just to reiterate, this is a Rochester Retro ban only. This is not an official UVS ban. This does not impact retro play as a whole, but may influence retro as a whole as we take a look into what cards were banned and why they were banned. So 5 cards have been banned, no erratas, just straight up bans. Starting off with the only attack on the list, Colossus Thermal Blast. This is a 13 diff, 7 mid for 7, 0 mid block, 4 check with Blitz. Your rival flips 5 foundations, and response after this attack deals damage to a player. Ruin 13. Ruin being a mechanic that requires your opponent to sacrifice X number of face down foundations. In this situation, it would be 13. So because you flipped 5, you're looking at a minimum of destruction of 5. Now, I personally know from first-hand experience, this is a brutal card in retro, as I played it in Mino 1, where you could just keep stacking it on top of your deck, checking it and playing it, and if your opponent was not prepared to deal with this mid, it was just a brutal experience. And unlike Rochester Retro, in regular Retro, you can attack on your first turn, so playing characters like Mino 1, means if I checked it going second, I could just devastate my opponent's board. Rochester Retro, you can't attack until your second turn as a player, so it's a little bit more fair, but this was banned more to do with older retro characters, such as Natalie, how we pronounce that, I'm going to go with Natalie, and Drillman, who were able to just do 1 card combos with Colossal Thermal Blast and just put your opponent on a clock, saying you always need to have an answer to this, or your board is just going to get ruined. Moving on to one that caught the EU community a little bit off guard, but in my eyes is kind of justifiable. Goro and Shiva, the 4-hand characters. 4-hand characters are unique in their design because they stretch the boundary of UVS. Goro and Shiva, although taking a huge risk with their 4-hand size, do get a big reward with how they can shape the gameplay. However, this can lead to unfun and uninteractable games, either where the Shiva and the Goro character have not found their engine pieces, have not found foundations, and are kind of just limping along while their opponent beats them down, or they find what they're looking for very quickly, and newer or less experienced players in retro do not know how to handle Goro and Shiva and just get completely wiped. It creates a situation where some games may be unfun, they may be uninteractive, and they may just not be what you're looking for in a side event. Then we have Devil Jin. Now, Devil Jin is a very good pick in my opinion. People have already been talking about how Devil Jin pops off in retro. There are so many card pool responses and enhances in current standard and in retro that Devil Jin just gets to pop off and do some very cool, borderline broken stuff. The interactions in the card pool for Devil Jin and the interactions with older attacks and foundations, especially when you look at how well Devil Jin gets to interact with that, and then when you take into account things like multiple and reversal, where he can utilize that damage and that zone changing and check hacking abilities to just go, I'm putting you on a clock in either player's turn, or I'm going to spam a lot of attacks with multiple, and they're all going to get increasingly more deadly. I think this is a great call. It is just a shame that Devil Jin really didn't get a chance to shine in retro before this. And lastly, we have Ken 2 from Street Fighters versus Darkstalkers. And This one is a little bit of a weird one. I don't know too much about Ken, but from my understanding of reading the card and the very limited interactions I've had playing against it, Ken is a very cool card, but has high damage output, and with no real cost to it, can also have an unparalleled level of card economy. The amount he can draw, the amount he can utilize his cards is second to none. So although they have 7-hander, although they are very squishy, the fact that they can just go turn to bam 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 die kind of to me utilizes why Ken needs to be on that list. Trying to make retro more approachable, trying to make retro more fun, trying to make retro more engaging for new players to step in, dealing with games that are not going to be fun, that are not going to be interactive. To me, it sounds like a very good step. I would have loved to see more things around, like, say, the tech sphere infinite combos, or the infinite damage kind of loops get touched, because that can also catch people off guard. But if no one's playing them, I can kind of get on there. But in the year of retro, it's great to see that we have the Rochester Retro Committee, and I'm very interested to see how this will influence the international markets. Oceania have 2 events this year. We have 3 events. Retro is going to be a key part of those side events, as well as it may pop up in other situations as well, because this is the year of retro. And I have spoken to Sean of Picture, who is the TO for our events, as well as I believe he has some influence in the Spanish one as well. And although they will not be abiding by this ban list, we may see some EU bans come in before we have our regional in April, because we want to make retro more approachable, we want to make retro more fun, and we want to make it a lot less intimidating for new players coming in. And banning characters that are intimidating, that put people off playing, although not the best decision as a format, is great for bringing people in. The amount of people that saw Connor's Goro or Kai's Goro and were like, I'm not going to try it when stuff like that exists. And now with those going down, we could see a renewed interest in retro and more people taking part, which is very, very cool. And we'll hopefully see more retro products being opened, and we're going to see more retro people taking part in events. I don't know quite what Oceania banned, and I will not be part of the EU Retro Committee. I have no idea, but I can imagine the dobbers and the old heads and the people like Grant and Mike who have their face on card from the old days will have some kind of influence into what gets banned, if anything gets banned in EU Retro. But on the other side of that, it would suck to have 3 ban lists and have people confused as to what the retro rules are depending on what event they are at. It can get a bit convoluted. So maybe this will influence UVS to be more active and kind of adopt the same policy as the Rochester Retro Committee, where we're going to see retro bans and stuff every couple of months when we've seen a couple of events go by and we get some more data. That would be very cool. That'd be very interesting to see what goes down. But let me know, is this enough? Should more things have been on the ban list? Was anything unjustly banned? And as always, did anything pull a Twisty Azor and skate by when it should have done? Which is quite ironic because Twisty Azor is banned in retro. We've got rotation coming up in a couple of weeks. A lot of new stuff is going to kind of go out of standard and be more tested in retro. And I'm very excited to see where this kind of goes. Is there anything coming in to the new retro place? Is there anything you are particularly worried about coming into the retro space, as this is the year retro and retro gets more focused? And the last question I'll ask before I wrap up, who do you play retro and why? Let me know what character you're playing, how are you playing them, and I'm going to try and do a bit more retro content this year because, as I said at the beginning of the video, as it's been said for the course of the year, this year is the year of retro. I'll catch you on the next one, and I'll see you at game night. Bye.